Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to Skill Up Stand channel. In this series, we are discussing about the top three cloud platforms in parallel. So in this session specifically, we are going to discuss about how the resource hierarchy looks like in each of the cloud platforms. So before we create the resource in each of the cloud platform, we go and create certain specific products or we enable specific features, and afterwards we go and create the resources. So let's say for AWS we create a particular concept called organization, and within that organization we group several accounts that we create into organization unit, and within that account we create the resources. And so to start with, let's look at why we need to have the hierarchy model, and what are the primary reasons why we generally have the different structure created in each cloud platform. So when I say the structure, in each cloud platform, we have a specific layered approach. So let's say when it comes to Microsoft Azure, we have a tenant, and within that we have management group, and we create subscriptions. Below that, we have the resource group and the resources. Similarly, AWS has the structure, which I just explained in the console. And also in GCP, we have a similar structure. We create a kind of organization, and then within that organization node we have folders and projects, and within that we have the resources in GCP. So why we need to have such split of the accounts or subscription before we create the resources? So at a very high level, these are the top 6 reasons why we need to have multiple different subscription or AWS account in a particular organization. So there are certain groupings within the organization where we might have to apply certain security guardrails, or the governance might have to be different for different workloads. So some of the application might need to be compliant based on the specific industry regulation, or some of the application might not need not be public facing, or it might not have any kind of compliance requirement. So in that cases we can split those workloads into different subscription or account or folder, and we can apply the security guardrails. And in certain organization, so generally the organization might have different environment, different business units, different departments, and for them, they might have different budget, and they want to have separate billing mechanisms, and they want to have clear control on how they are handling or utilizing the budget. And cost management is one of the reason why we need to have different subscription, and similarly in other cloud platforms why we need to have different accounts and folders. And the next one is around the identity and access management. So this is another important reason how you want to manage the access for separate resources. Let's say you might utilize some of the security product, and for which the cloud security team needs access. Similarly, you might be having some of the logging and other auditing related AWS account for which the SIEM team might need access. Similarly, like you might have network resources which are used for hybrid networking, or the resources connectivity purpose, and for that you might need to give access to the level 2 team within the cloud operations and so on. So you might have to handle role-based access control, for which account subscriptions provides you a easy way to manage that situation. Similarly, like as I explained earlier, you might have to segregate the resource by department, business unit, or environment. So for isolation purpose, we create different subscriptions, accounts, and folders. And for scalability needs, so some of the Azure subscription or AWS account, they have their own quota limits. So there are two layers. One is the soft quota, and the other one is the hard quota. So you can go up to the hard quota limits by increasing based on the need. And in order to mitigate reaching those scaling limits, so generally we go and create different accounts or subscription to handle the quota limits efficiently. And the last reason is generally the mergers and acquisitions. They might be already a existing customer for Azure or AWS. They might already have subscriptions and AWS account. So at the initial point of time, they might retain those structure and just add it as part of the AWS organization or existing tenant. So mergers and acquisitions are a good use case where you might need multiple different resources, right? So this is how it looks like in AWS. So we'll start looking at the AWS part first. So before we create the resources in AWS, we have to have the organization feature. Just now I showed it in the console here. So we generally go to organization and then create the organization, and you get the root folder on the top, and below that you go and create the organizational units based on your organizational structure, and you go and create the account for each of the OU and the resources within that. So this is what the structure that I'm trying to convey as the hierarchy here. And generally the management account is the first account where you start adding the other accounts, and whether if you want to invite more accounts, you invite it from the management account. So management account is the master account, and when it is used for paying purpose or billing consolidation, it is also called as master payer account. So rest of the accounts which are being invited or added, they are called as member account, and they can be part of any OU based on your organization structure. And one account can be part of only one particular OU at the same time. And within the AWS account, you go and select the region, availability zone, the data center, and then you create the resources based on the need. Similarly, in Azure, we have the structure like this. So Microsoft Entra tenant, within that management groups, and you have subscriptions, resource group, and resources. So this is the hierarchy that we follow in Azure. And in GCP, you have the organization, within that the folders, project, and the resources. So this is the hierarchy that we follow in GCP. And majority of the stuffs like the regions, the zones, which are all common across all the cloud platform. And you also have the resources. The name of the resources might be different, but the features and specifications for each of these products and services will be more or less similar. So this is the structure we follow in GCP. So side by side, if you look at, so GCP has organization, folders, projects, and resources. AWS has got organization, OUs, account, and then resources. So project, account, and subscription, they are at the same level. And here in Azure, we have management group, subscription, resource group, and resources. So this is the level that we have in Azure. So we already looked at this slide. It's the same kind of hierarchical structure that we have in Azure, AWS, and GCP. So generally, the landing zone structure will comprise of all these components in all the three cloud platform in order to have proper branching strategy, proper structured baseline before we would really create the resources. So this is how an example will look like. So let's say GCP will have an organization based on the company name. Within that, you will go and create folders based on the departments or business unit, or based on the merger, acquisitions, or based on the environment. We will split them into different folders, and some organization, they will have the folder for the business unit, and within that they will have different project for different environment, and it all depends on the solution architect on how they want to have it. And within that they have the Google Cloud services, the resources, the actual resources we create. Okay, so this is the resource hierarchy in GCP. And generally we have a separate billing account through which we handle all the consolidated FinOps related billing related aspect. So AWS organization is the topmost. Similarly, GCP as organization is the topmost. In Azure, in Microsoft, we have intra tenant, which is the topmost thing, and we have the root management group. Within that, we have management groups, organization unit, and folder here. And below that, we have AWS accounts created and subscriptions. Here we call it as project. Based on the project need, we go and split them. And within that, we have resources and resource group and resources in Azure. And directly we have resources in project and AWS account. And even there are resource group concepts in AWS, but it's not extensively used like in Microsoft Azure. So this is the higher level understanding of the terms and terminologies. We are going to discuss each and every cloud platform and their hierarchy in details. So there are some of the concepts which are very similar and common across all the cloud platform. So let's say the identity management system in AWS is called as identity access identity and access management. And also we have identity center if you have more than one account where you want to have centralized single sign-on and other integration mechanism. In Microsoft Azure, we have Entra ID, and in GCP, we have Cloud Identity, and the concept is workspace concept is also there. And with below that, you have AWS organization. In Azure, we have Microsoft management group, and we call it as root management group at the top level. Here also we call it as root, and below that we have the next category, OU management group, and in GCP we have the folder. Here in AWS, we have account, Azure has subscription, GCP has project. And below that, we have the grouping of resources. If you're using infrastructure as a code, then cloud formation stack. Within that, we have the resources. And if you want to have policy guardrails applied from security point of view, you have service control policy, which we are going to discuss in detail in the next demo. And we have Azure policy to have all the security guardrails applied. In GCP, we have organization policy. So policy is the common name for all the security guardrails. Okay. So yeah. So this is how the permissions also inherit down the tree. So whatever the permissions or role-based assignment we do, so it automatically gets inherited based on the structure we just explained. And you can also apply policies or special security guardrails at any of these layer, at the root level or OU level or account level, and the resource, especially at the topmost three level. Similarly, Azure policy also you can apply it at the root management group level or at the subscription level. So you have single sign-on federation options in all the three cloud platforms. So that is common. Okay, so we will also look at a little more details around the FinOps aspect in the next session. And the same company, you have the similar structure for each cloud platform. So this is the name that we have been discussing, and just an example there. So there are tools that are available from each cloud platform to simplify how we kind of create the structure, how we kind of deploy the accounts or subscriptions, and so on. So in each cloud platform, for example, in AWS, you have Control Tower through which you can create organization, and through Account Factory, you can provision multiple accounts. And in Azure Landing, in Azure platform, you have Azure Landing Zone through which you can also create resources using Bicep or Terraform. And also in GCP, you have the Cloud Formation Toolkit and also the Fabric Fast, so through which you can create the GCP Landing Zone related resources. So these are all the Cloud Formation Toolkit has Terraform module integration option, and Fabric Fast is actually end-to-end Terraform Landing Zone opinionated tool. So the design principle that you can use across all the cloud platforms. So you need to design the hierarchy before even you create the workloads. So each of the hierarchy has to be well defined, and also you have to match the boundary to avoid any kind of impact and reduce the blast radius. So you can use account in AWS, subscription in Azure, and projects in GCP to isolate the workloads from environment to environment. And you can also push the guardrails up and then grant access down. So you can start from the higher level, and then you can assign least privilege at the leaf level, right? And you can plan identity once. So there are many providers where you can have single sign-on integration at one uh, cloud platform. For example, Microsoft Entra ID can be used for Azure, AWS, and GCP. Similarly, there are other solutions which can be interchangeably used, and you can have identity and access management at one single pane of glass. And you have to tag everything. Tagging is a very essential part of cloud platform management and governance. It can be for FinOps or DevOps, or for any kind of operational governance activity. You need proper tagging mechanism. So tagging is a quite an important concept. And you can also automate the tree. You can provision each and every layer using Terraform or specific landing zone deployment tools. So these are the essential terminologies that you need to be aware of for each of the three cloud platform. So now we will start discussing the other areas comparing each of the cloud platforms. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening.